Hey, it is 11:01, so why don't we go ahead and get started? There is a couple of presenters today, um, myself, and then our director or our marketing services manager, Kim Schmaus, and then also our creative services manager, Gerald Steffen, is also going to be presenting. There'll be plenty of time to answer questions at the end of the presentation, and with that, let me make sure that Gerald is on the call. Yep, he is. He's connecting right now. So, Kim, would you like to go ahead and do your introduction?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. Good to see some familiar faces or some familiar photos, at least, this morning. For those of you who don't know me, yes, I am not American. I started working for Connors a couple of years ago, first as a contractor, part-time, and now as the marketing services service center manager. Put my teeth back in. And so I've worked with Sarah and Gerald a lot as part of the Marcom team, and we thought it would be prudent to put together this presentation for you today so that we can ensure that everybody knows what we're meant to be doing in terms of the visual aspects of branding for both WSU and Connors. I am the screen sharer today, so please forgive any screens that go awry, but I will just quickly do a little intro on branding. So when I was researching how to talk about branding, this is not the first time I've talked about it, of course, being a marketer, but I thought it would be good to put a couple of quotes from the gurus of branding in here. So branding is a term that gets bandied around, and a lot of people, I think, don't really understand what it means. And I think this is probably the best encapsulation of what branding is. So it's really the perception of other people about your product, your service, your organization, your company. And I think this quote from David Breyer encapsulates that very well. Today, we are focusing purely on the visual elements of branding. Branding goes far further than that, very much into the sphere of language and storytelling. But here we're just talking about the visual aspects. Ooh, apologies. So these are the reasons why branding is important. It really, if you keep consistency with how your assets and your products and your communications look, then that establishes what we call in marketing that sort of know, like, and trust factor. So people start to recognize who this communication is coming from, the fact that it's coming from an established and unique brand. It differentiates WSU and Connors from other universities, and it also kind of fosters that sense of pride and loyalty that we want our Cougs to have, and our Coug alumni and our Coug parents, of course. It also helps to communicate our sort of values and our mission and our strengths, so that one organization's brand, let's say McDonald's, as an example, will look very, very different from Lowe's brand. They are trying to communicate different elements, different values, and reach different audiences. And so to pull it all together, it enhances your recognition and your awareness. And overall, when you utilize and adhere to brand guidelines, it contributes to the long-term success of your organization or business. I think this is still me, or is it you, Gerald? I'll take it, shall I?
Yeah,
sorry, Gerald, what was that?
it's all you.
It's all me. Good. Sorry, I haven't got the notes of who's doing which slide in front of me because I'm sharing my screen. So this is a quick breakdown of the visual elements of a brand. And overarching that are a set of brand guidelines. Brand guidelines is simply a document that shows you how to apply the brand elements. So the things that fall within the visual elements are logos, the color palette that we use, the typography, i.e. the fonts that we use, and the weighting of those fonts, as in the thickness, the boldness, whether it's italicized or not. And then the imagery. So within that sphere, we're talking about photos, graphics, illustrations, and actually any kind of digital social media graphics as well, and videography, short GIFs, things like that. Then how things are laid out, how they look on either a page or on a screen or on a website or a newsletter, that's also part of the visual branding toolkit. Digital assets I've mentioned in terms of social media, but also in terms of how your email templates and your email newsletters look, and Sarah will touch on that later. Slightly less relevant maybe for us, but I would be remiss if I didn't include this. The branding even includes things like labels and boxes and bags, and you can think about your local grocery stores for that, and your point of sale items, and how signage might look in the environment of a grocery store that you're in, or a retail store. You know, everything looks like it comes from the same world, the same organization, and it kind of speaks the same visual language. So moving on. So first we're going to take a look at logos. These links are at the end as well, so don't worry about jotting this down, because it will be at the end too. And I will kick the ball over to Gerald.
Hi, I'm Gerald Steffen. I'm the Connors Communications Creative Manager. Today I've got logos, colors, and typography I'm going to go over, and then Sarah will go over the rest of the items that were on the previous list. But the WSU logo has been updated. This September, it'll be 2 years. So if you haven't gotten on board yet, now's the time. That's why we're doing this, because there's some people who still haven't heard the message, as it were. So the WSU logo has been updated. New fonts. Gone is the shield that you may remember. Cougar head remains. It's our most identifiable object, so it has been incorporated very boldly into the new iterations of the logo. A logo, you'll often hear it called a signature as well. And I like that term, a signature, because if you think about signing any kind of legal document or anything like that, you put your signature on it. That means it's yours, it's part of you. So when you throw a signature on something, you're making it part of the university. You're saying the university is backing this. So it's very important. And I think it carries more weight when you kind of refer to something as a signature versus a logo, which can have a very less powerful way of talking about marketing or branding. So when you get a logo from the university, it is already combined. We'll see this on another slide, but you cannot start messing with elements. You have to use it exactly as it's provided. You can change the format in terms of the file type based on your needs, but the objects themselves cannot be altered. There are spacing rules for using this logo, and we'll show that on the next slide. When you're using this logo system, we're trying to narrow down the number of logos that are available to people. Previously, the system went all the way down to departments and program levels. That's no longer the case. It's more based on the idea of a system across the state. And those extension programs, generally extension programs that have secondary marks such as 4-H, Master Gardener, and some other, the SnapEd, you have to use the elements together, giving each its own separate distance and so that they're not merged together. Next slide, Kim. So the three things you need to kind of be aware of when using the logo is the spacing around the logo is generally, I just show the cougar head here, but you can extrapolate it to a full logo. It is this kind of the shorthand. It's the size of the cougar's lower jaw, is how much white space you need to leave around the logo itself. And white space literally isn't just like white space. So if your logo's on black and you have a reversed out logo, you don't have to have it in a white box. That's not literal. It's the amount of space you leave around it. It's clear space is probably a better way to say it. The minimum size for a logo is 1.5 inches. Half inch if you're just using the cougar head by itself. So if you get smaller than that, what's going to happen is that some of that type is going to get really unreadable. That's a known factor. So try to keep it to at least 1.5 inches for print documents, 150 pixels for digital. And we have a kind of a new concept with this brand iteration. It's branding up. And what that means is it's never wrong to use the university signature, and then sort of drilling down next would be the college signature, and under that would be extension signature, and under that would be county extension signature, and under that is nothing. So that's your limitation. You can always go up. It's never wrong because ultimately we are all the same organization, whether you're up or down the food chain. It just gets more granular. But when in doubt, if you have nothing else, just use the main university logo. Next. So extension programs, like I mentioned before, and those have been around a while, we'll notice that the program logos have disappeared. I presented some of this to Extension a while back, but Extension program logos will be used as type only. So your program name will be in type, kind of on the, such as the example on the left, where the Master Gardener program name is just in type and the King County logo is at the bottom. There are some exceptions for branding clothing due to the size of some of the letters. They can't be stitched properly, but any of that, those kind of questions can be run through me. Master Gardeners, after their 50th anniversary celebration, has a really robust website and guidelines for using the spirit mark, which is the flower that you may be familiar with. It's a secondary mark, and it needs to be incorporated on official documents with a WSU branded logo. But there are volunteers have a little more leeway with the use of those secondary spirit marks. Next. So the county extension logo is the three components are the cougar head, the vertical line, and the typography. And we call that a lockup. And it's a really good descriptive term because the elements are literally locked together in a certain aspect ratio. So whether you scale it up or down, the type, the head, the cougar head, and the line all move in relation to one another. So that in a way keeps you from trying to modify any of those things. And again, if you need a modification of something for a particular use, then we can do that for single instances, such as like, let's say you have a pen that you want to give away, but the cougar head is too large in proportion to the other elements. Then I can work with that, and we can get approval from the trademark office to make some modifications for that particular instance. Next. Okay, so next, the WSU colors. We have a palette of colors that you can see that we'll show you here, but you can see them online as well. Main primary colors, crimson and gray. Real heavy emphasis going back to crimson and gray again. Listed are the Pantone matching system colors, which are considered solid colors. The RGB colors, which are digital colors, CMYK colors for print, and the hex colors for the web. Kim, next one. Secondary colors, we have a accent crimson or a bright crimson, they call it. neutral black, and white, obviously. So there's, you can do any kind of combinations of these colors. These will be the majority of the colors that you will use. There are some accent colors which are also included, but these have limited use, and they're not to be used in a way that they're full page, going beyond the idea of the crimson and gray. They're to accent the crimson and gray or a particular program. This is a real difference from the last time we had brand colors, that we had some blues and some greens and some other things, and people were like, I'm in forestry, I really like green, and then they used the green for everything. So we're trying to draw that back in, especially with external communications. Photos and things like that can provide color and other things that can help with this. There are some established ratios on the next slide of that can kind of show you what the thinking is for these accent colors and or the other colors in combination with one another. 10% is like the level of use of the accent color, and that's kind of on a whole page or the whole document. So if you had a 90-page book and you made one page blue, that would be 10%, right? So the rest of the book should be crimson and gray or variations thereof, black, white. Or you can use, bars, pipes, just one word for emphasis. You can use it in a lot of different ways. No one's going to go check your exact ratio. But the thought is that you will use it far less than what has been allowed in the past. Our next area to cover quickly.
Can I pause you just to
Sure.
answer? We had a couple of questions in the chat. One was about logo. When using the Master Gardener Spirit mark in conjunction with the WSU logo, I assume the U spacing rule still applies.
That is correct. And you know what? I need to find, if you're not familiar with the website for the 4-H, or not 4-H, for the Master Gardener branding, they have a site that they set up that has all kinds of really good documentation on it, specifically for Master Gardener programming. And so we do.
That link in the chat as well.
Do you have that one? Yes, perfect. Thank you, Alex. Was there another question?
Yeah, the other question was, the accent green is too light for the web ratio. Can we darken when necessary? And I can answer that. It's actually, when it's on the web, it does meet accessibility guidelines. On the web, it looks a little bit light on, I think, the Zoom. But when using it on the web, the contrast ratio, if it's on white, is acceptable.
Does it work on black as well, Sarah?
That's a good question. I believe so, but I'd have to double check.
Okay. For print, I prefer it over like a darker color or charcoal gray or something like that. So, okay, typography is the use of fonts that are going to say things about our brand. Again, just like somebody's handwriting, it's expressive. A font is expressive. Proxima Nova is our new choice of font. It's very modern and clean. It gives it kind of a forward thinking aesthetic. It also works very well on digital, which is one of the prime ways that we're moving branding into a digital environment. Proxima Nova is part of the Creative Suite, so it is not a free font, but we do have other options that you can use if you don't have access to Adobe products. Next. So the secondary typeface that the university prefers is Freight Big Pro. This is also an Adobe font, and it has limited use, in my opinion. It's great for large headlines and things like that, or for accenting, or for events, ceremonies, things like that. If you can't set a whole page in this and have it be readable, honestly, it'd be better to have either Proxima Nova or one of the substitute fonts, Baskerville, which we'll show next. It does have limited use. Montserrat is your web alternative, which is a free font. It's 85 to 90% basically the same as Proxima Nova. Very few people are going to notice the difference. There's only a few letter shapes that are different. It is available for free, so that is what a lot of people can default to. I think it's a good looking font, and it carries all the same values as Proxima Nova. And then of course we have Microsoft replacement fonts for people who just have the Office suite. Baskerville Old Face is going to replace your Freight Big Pro. Corbel and Arial are two standard sans serif fonts. This presentation is set in Corbel just because the three of us were working on it, and it's again a Microsoft font that's on everybody's computer. So you'll see it used here. It's a very nice, friendly sans serif font that has a couple of weights, bold, italic. So you can do a number of things with it. But it, as the character fonts are slightly different, so it does have a little bit different feel to it. But for the most part, it's passable. Now I'm going to kick it over to Sarah for discussion of imagery and other topics.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Schaub. I'm the Web Services Manager here at Connors. And I'll cover imagery, which really kind of includes not only photography, but social media. And there's also WSU approved icons and whatnot, which we won't entirely cover that. But we'll start with photography. As you know, photography is a really important way to communicate your message or to showcase information about your unit or your department or your area. WSU has some specific guidelines for how to use photography throughout your website or print publications. It should always consider our narrative of the 5 tone words, which are down to earth, spirited, resilient, original, and welcoming. There are a couple of different opportunities for you to download imagery from both WSU brand website and also Connors has a Flickr account where we have a couple of photographers within the marketing and communications department who are regularly attending events and photographing those events. And so I'll drop that link in the chat, one to our Flickr account and the other for downloads from the WSU brand website. And so this slide is just kind of showing some good examples of suggested types of photography that you can use of the campus environment and people, campus environment architecture, or up close details. Next slide, Kim. Some more examples of how you can showcase portraits or the student experience, or this could be a lab experience or social interaction. Some different examples there. We do have some specific guidelines on what not to do for photography, specifically not to use large formal group portraits, try to avoid direct flash photography, nothing unnatural or overly staged. Do not obviously include people wearing logos from other universities, say, UW. Do not include situations when safety procedures are not followed. For example, a lab photo, maybe where someone isn't wearing goggles or the proper, lab attire, try and avoid, imagery like that. Also try not to include colors of rival university, drugs, alcohol, political slogans. Some of this is pretty obvious, but again, these are just the guidelines for photography. And then also try and stay away from using hand signs or signals. And then also not on this list is to make sure you try and avoid using images that have text embedded on them. So it's not, especially on the web, It would not be considered accessible because a screen reader only reads the image. It wouldn't read the text that's on the image. So that's another thing to include in your guidelines for imagery. And the next we'll talk about social media. Again, there's the link for social media guidelines for the web and digital. Drop that link in the chat. This slide shows the approved social media badges and headers that you can use on social media accounts. Again, this might not pertain to a lot of you, but some different programs and units have their own social media accounts. And so the gray round icon is for the system. So only the university as a whole uses that. And then there's a campus specific logo and then a college department or unit specific logo. So if you have a social media account, make sure you're using the proper icon logo for your social media account. Additionally, there is some patterns that you can download off of the brand.wsu.edu website that you can use as overlay on some of your, you want to go back one slide, Kim, that you can use for overlay on some of your social media images. It's kind of hard to see in the video, but you can see the pattern plus profile example there, which is also available on the brand website. So all of those items are available for download on the brand website as well. So you can ensure you're using the right patterns and imagery. Okay, now I'm ready, Kim. Okay, email newsletters. This has come up quite a bit lately in discussion within the marketing and communications team. We have a lot of people doing their own email newsletters within different departments and extension. And we thought this would really be helpful to kind of outline what the guidelines are, which are the same for newsletters as they are across all other WSU products, from website to print, or whether you're doing a PDF newsletter or a digital newsletter. So applying the same elements, making sure we're using, the proper typography, colors, logo, photography, and any other additional branding elements. We do have a number of other newsletter examples that I will share on our Connors News website for Voice of the Vine, which has not quite been updated with the newest branding guidelines. That's coming next with the redesign of their website. And then the extension update along with From the Dean's Desk blog. You can see all of those have been branded with the updated brand guidelines. And so if you're using, for example, a free version of Word or MailChimp, for example, to send out your newsletters, you might not have access to some of the options that are available as the default, like the Montserrat font is not necessarily available. But that's when you can fall back on Arial or Corbel as the approved fonts that you can use as a substitution. But more importantly, ensuring that you're using the proper colors, the proper logos, and that it's properly branded. If you ever have a question about whether or not your newsletter is branded properly, you can always reach out to me or Gerald on our team, and we can provide some guidance. And for anyone who's interested, please let us know. We would be happy to do a follow-up training specifically on email newsletters and MailChimp or other third-party platforms for setting up templates and branded newsletter templates. So let us know if you have any further questions on that. And now Kim's going to kind of cover some of the resources and contact information, and then we'll open it up for questions for anyone who has any questions.
Thanks, Sarah. And thanks, Gerald, from earlier. Yeah, I think we've covered most of these resources, either in the chat or within the presentation earlier. But the top link here, that's your go-to for WSU branding. That covers the whole of the university. The middle link here is your Connors branding. So on this particular link, you're going to be able to access all the things that are specific to our college. And then in terms of newsletters, we have a specialist link for that too. As Sarah said, you know, we're very interested in and would love to do further training on newsletters if you guys thought that that would be helpful to you. And here's my final quote for this presentation. Remember, I mentioned it earlier, actually, the know, like, trust factor. So these visual elements and the incorporation of these into your communications that you're putting out into the world help to make Connors and WSU knowable, likable, and trustable. I could bore for Britain on branding because it's one of my pet subjects. I'm really interested in it and the psychology of it. But I will leave it there for now and just say thank you to everyone who's participated and open the floor for questions.
We do have one question in the chat from RA. He is asking, do you have a social media badge for 4-H? I believe the answer is no. Is that correct, Gerald?
Yeah, you know, we don't have, I don't know that we've actually established guidelines for that. I assume in the past we did a dividing line with a cougar head and a 4-H clover. I don't know, there might be some people who are still doing that. It had the shield, so it was outdated. I would check with the 4-H main office, and then we probably have to work together to establish something that's university or county program wide across all counties. For now, I would say use the university one, and then in the like if it's Facebook for the circular part, use the WSU brand, and then for the main photo or image, put your 4-H logoing up there.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gerald. Next, we have a comment from Ashley. I think every department should have an alumni newsletter. It would be a great resource for them to have a training. Thank you for all these updates, everyone. Yes, thank you, Ashley. Good point. Let's see. This might be a question for SNAP-Ed. Clark County SNAP-Ed does a lot of events with our local partners. When they want to promote our program on their marketing materials, we've used the Clark County Extension logo, SNAP-Ed combo logo. What would the rule be? Can you answer that, Gerald?
For SNAP-Ed, there used to be a combo logo that had the shield and it said SNAP-Ed and the county name. That's no longer the case. So what you should be using is the SNAP-Ed with the letter form with the Washington State to the side and a cougar or a WSU county logo. They don't have to necessarily be together. You can have them separate places on the document. If it's a trifold, you could put one on the front and one on the back, just as long as everybody's being identified. You know, if it's a table cover or something where you want to represent both logos, we have some ways of stacking those and putting them side by side that are approved. But that combination logo, if I'm referring to the right one with the shield and the name, you should stop using that and just use the two independent, either your county name or extension logo with the SNAP-Ed.
Thanks, Gerald. And Mike, it looks like you have your hand up. Mike Peronta.
I ended up writing it. I got.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You know what the rules were? I was going to talk.
Gotcha. Okay, so Mike's question, in the context of copyright protection, are there any specific crediting rules for WSU sites?
So I've just been through a presentation ordeal where every image on the presentation must have, you know, underneath a complete link back to the original image. I don't notice that on websites at all. Is it just not done? Is it different standards? What?
Well, that's a good question, Mike. Usually we have to attribute if it's something that we've you know, if it's licensed by us, which we have our own account for stock imagery and we can license images, we don't necessarily have to put the credit. If it's something we're getting permission to use, we do have to give credit to who, you know.
So then follow the print rules for that. Okay.
Yep.
Got it. Okay.
And if it's something that we take ourselves, we don't necessarily credit our communications department unless it's like in WSU Insider or something like that for who took the photo, but not within our college. We don't credit all of our photos to who took it if it's within
Okay.
our unit.
Okay,
Let's see. Looks like Rich said he'd be interested in a follow-up newsletter training. Not seeing any other questions in the chat. Does anyone else have any questions about branding?
got one more,
Okay.
if you don't mind. This is, I hesitate, kind of wacky, but Sarah, you know a little of the context. You guys are rolling out the county extension website off. I saw a video this morning for a new template that you guys provide
Mhm,
to access programs.
mhm.
Can you take a Master Gardener? So the Master Gardener spirit mark and put underneath it the approved logo for the, you know, extension office and the county name, and kind of turn that into a portal, a clickable image to go to the Master Gardeners for King County or whatever that is, or am I combining elements, is that frowned upon?
Are you talking about like on the home page of a county site? Like within the header with the other logo?
There's like a box of you got a row of 4 cards that you guys on the video you're using
Oh,
just
okay.
photos. I'm saying replace it with a
Yes.
photo with something like a brand
Yeah,
indicator.
yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
Yeah, just not within the header alongside the Cougar logo. Like we won't be adding any additional logos within the header of any websites.
Got it. Okay. Thanks.
Mhm.
One other item that extension does have to worry about is the non-discrimination statement. We didn't really cover that, but that is something that does need to be included on all your websites and print materials and all that. I'm sure you're all
Okay.
aware of that, but that's a standard for extension and one of their, separate qualities that they need to add.
I'm seeing a couple more comments about newsletter training would be helpful. And RA is asking where we could find the most current version of that statement. Gerald, are you aware?
It's a good question. I would say it should be on the extension website, but if it's not, we should we should get that there.
Yeah.
There should be some resources for extension personnel. There used to be. I have not looked at the site in a while. Do you remember when you updated the site, Sarah, if that was
Well, we're
there?
still working on the redesign for the extension, the main WSU extension website. Do you mean like the county operations site?
I was thinking the main website, like for staff, when you have the drop down, there used to be like, guidelines for extension, volunteers, plus, some other random resources, but
I'm looking, but I'm not seeing it.
Okay.
So that's a good point. We do need to make sure we get it on the main extension website if it's not there. I just haven't looked through it.
it might be on our, let me check our site real quick and see if it's there. It might be on our communication website. If not, I can put it there. It hasn't changed. There's a really long version and a really short version. As far as I know, I'll double check with Vicky and Robin to make sure that nothing has changed. And then I'll get it up on the Connors Communications website.
I think this might be it. I think Alex found it, and Gerald, maybe you can confirm whether or not this is it. I just put the link in the chat to the discrimination and accessibility statement. It's posted on the Benton and Franklin counties website. Is that the current one possibly? If not, we'll make sure that it's on the extension website. And then let's see, Sharon is asking if we could post our contact information for others so that we can help individually. Yeah, we can definitely do that. So if you have any web related questions or newsletter related questions, I'd be happy to help. So I'll put my WSU email address in the chat. And Kim just posted hers as well, and I believe Gerald will post his as well. And we would be very happy to provide a follow-up training on developing newsletters. It seems like most of our users are either creating PDF versions or are using MailChimp. So if you have questions different than those two types of newsletters, then maybe reach out and let us know so we can incorporate that into the training. But we'd be happy to provide a training on MailChimp and maybe how to set up templates that can be reused that are branded. And then, yes, Kim also put a reminder in the chat that she offers an Ask Me Anything marketing session. She hosts that weekly. So you are welcome to sign up for that. You use Constant Contact, Sharon? I'm not familiar with Constant Contact, but I'm sure it's probably not too far off from, something like MailChimp. So we can definitely take a look at that. Let's see. 4H Online has an email feature that myself and 4 other folks use. So is it an online newsletter, Linda? Or you use Canva?
The 4-H online program that we use, that's kind of our database for membership
Okay.
and volunteer enrollment and everything. And they do have a broadcast feature that you can set up for emails and newsletters.
Okay.
Yeah, our county uses Canva, and so we got started on Canva, and you can, it has a place for you to pull in what your brand is. So you pull in your colors and your fonts, and then you can just create templates from that.
Okay. Yeah, and there's probably no issue, Linda, as long as you're using all of the, the brand elements and following those guidelines. That where we've run into issues is when we start using like, a green that's not within our palette and like a typewriter type font and logos that are no longer updated. And so that's kind of what we see more often than not in some of the newsletters, just because people aren't quite aware of what the guidelines are. So, but if you have a question, you want it to be reviewed, we'd be happy to take a look and provide any suggestions or recommendations for changes if necessary, or just make sure that it's in compliance with everything.
Well, and I think some of the things we see with newsletters is people do a seasonal kind of thing. So they'll make everything orange and brown and whatever. And it's like, instead of selectively making a header with a cornucopia on it or falling leaves, the whole document will be in a bunch of non-branded colors, and they'll, mix 7 or 8 different fonts together because it's fun and creative and Canva lets me do it. But the end result is it doesn't look professional.
It doesn't look like WSU, right? Oh, Kim dropped a link in the chat if you wanted to book a slot with her for her Ask Me Anything sessions. Jody, I'm not sure about your question. Does that include texting contact? I'm not sure what you mean.
Never mind. I was just wondering if someone was knew about using texting. Or it's never mind.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with newsletters. Forget it.
Alex also posted the link to our team page for the marketing and communications team that has all of our contact information if you're interested. Looks like Joyce, you use Constant Contact. And so for the Constant Contact users, I am curious, is that the free version or do you have a paid version of Constant Contact, or what are you using for those of you?
We have a paid version at Pierce County.
You have a free version?
No, it's paid.
Paid.
Same. We
Same.
also have paid, yeah.
And are you sharing those accounts with anyone, or are you just using them individually?
The program coordinator and myself use it.
Okay. And do you mind sharing the cost, the monthly cost with me of what you pay for Constant Contact?
I'm not positive on the cost anymore, but I think it's right about $32 a month.
Okay. And by an estimate, do you have an idea of how big your email list is?
It was 307, but it has grown now, so it's over 400.
Okay. How about you, Sharon?
I'm not sure on the cost either. Email We send out to probably 1,500.
Okay.
It does need to be cleaned up. I know that.
Gotcha. Okay. Let's see. What are the crediting rules for images on the site? Okay, and I think Alex might have answered that. So if we're talking about accessibility guidelines, it's important to first try and have a descriptive name instead of like, IMG-6548, which can often be the name of an image file that you're using on your site. So I encourage you to rename your file to be a descriptive name. Additionally, you always need to provide descriptive alternative text for your image that that explains to the user, if someone was blind, what's going on in the photo. So it accurately describes what's happening in the image. Captions are what display below your image and should not be the same as your alternative text, because that can affect the user experience. So I think Alex put that in the chat mostly, but just to verbalize it to the group, those are the rules around images for the web. Let's see, our newsletters that are distributed only to Connors, faculty, and staff under the same guidelines as those distributed to external parties. Yes, anything that's coming from WSU Extension or WSU Connors needs to be branded with WSU. If it's WSU affiliated, it needs to follow WSU brand guidelines. And that includes Extension and County Extension. There are some exceptions that have the additional branding guidelines, like Gerald mentioned, like SnapEd has its own brand along with 4-H, but it still needs to be included WSU brand.
Yeah, and there's a minimal amount of brand elements, the typography, the logoing, colors, so those minimal amount of things should be always included or thought of when you create internal documents, because they invariably everything ends up external anyway. So
any other questions? We have about 12 minutes left.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Vincent.
I'm creating a multi-page document that has some pie charts in there. I don't want to use the accent colors because it'd probably be a little bit too loud to do that. What color should I use for like a pie chart or tables?
is it a presentation that is
It's like an annual report type thing document that may go up on the web, but most likely it's paper form.
Yeah, I would say use your best judgment. Minimally, not everything has to be completely 100% on a palette, especially with a publication or a report or something like that, because a lot of times you're drawing from external sources. The color palette, yeah, is bright. I have used it for pie charts and things like that. You can, for limited use for something like that, you can explore using a screened version of some of those colors or a tint. A lot of the programs now will give you like some options of color palettes that kind of draw from similar items. I wouldn't apply it to everything, but an element here or there is probably not going to rock the marketing boat.
Yeah, okay. And the background with the WSU and then the inverted WSU, I got in feedback that people not affiliated with the university thought it was MSU or USM and stuff. And have you got any feedback in regards to that?
Yeah, it's not, it's supposed to be a subtle element to add a little bit of depth and texture. Half of it is up, every other row is upside down. So it does, it's not to be, read literally. There are some other choices. Instead of using, there's angled strokes. There are, there's the WSU characters. There's some other pluses and a few other things. So if one of those doesn't work, you don't have to use them. It's an option. It doesn't work for all instances. It's, to me, I would say that that's more of a branded item that could be, stepping back, you have to know who the audience is, who you're adding things to. I think that's a big one, is like, you know, people need to know or be familiar with WSU as the letters WSU, or they will get confused by the whole thing. So you have to know when to use it, when the audience is appropriate.
Okay. And when designing presentations that may be printed out, should we design in CMYK or RGB? What is closest to Pantone?
CMYK is going to be closest to Pantone. The caveat being, if it's going to a service provider that prints on a 4-color digital or 4-color offset press, then they're going to need a CMYK build. A lot of the tools now will convert your RGBs to CMYK, and it's a lot closer than it used to be. I would check with your, as long as you can generate a PDF file for generally output, and it'll do conversion of colors a lot of times for you. If you just put up like a Word document and people decide to print it, you really don't have much control over what their printer is going to do. You know, so as long as you set it up properly, I guess there's a difference between using a qualified service provider for printing versus somebody just, you know, ripping it off on their desktop printer. You can't guarantee anything on that. But you know, as long as you can generate the proper output from the color settings, ideally you'd want to use the CMYK color space. But again, I would check with the service provider to see what they find acceptable.
Thank you.
Bethany, it looks like you have a question.
I do, yeah. So it's about the non-discrimination statement. Where on our sites should we be putting that? And can we use the one that WSU has up on their compliance and civil rights page?
The one that Alex posted, the center part of that with the 2 sentences, the minimum one that you need to use for extension. It's pretty short. I think WSU just uses like WSU as AAEEIO, some, you know, just a various combination of whatever the letters are for. But I think the extension one needs to be spelled out. Generally, that I put that in the footer of documents. Backside of if it's a brochure or something, backside near the logo is generally where it's put, or in a contact information area. Obviously, something that you're giving away, like a ballpoint pen, you're not going to put it on there, but you know, anywhere where there's space for it, you should be adding it.
Okay.
Especially if it's from a, you know, obvious extension program.
Okay. We have it included on all of our job descriptions that we post, but I'm just wondering if we need to like devote like a page on our website, or do we add like a little footer thing somewhere on one of our pages? Do we put it on the DEI page? Like, I guess that's kind of, I just want to make sure that it's okay that where we have it included right now on the website, and do I need to have a whole page added in for that?
I don't know the answer to that one, honestly.
I can tell you that on all of our websites that are being migrated into the new WSU web design system,
Yeah.
at the bottom of every footer is a link to all of the university policies and rules that links to, I think, most of the required statements. So let me just drop that link in the chat here. But that link to the policies is in the footer of every website.
Oh, yeah.
And that has a number of different statements and policies for community standards, compliance and civil rights, like all of the, I'm not seeing extension on there. So I need to look into that, but
Okay. Cool. Yeah, this is great. Thank you.
Joyce.
This is a little bit off the wall, but it's kind of important to me. Is I'm going to stop my video real quick so you can see what I'm talking about. I use this, and should I not be using that? I use it for everything that I Zoom. I understand that it's outdated now because it has the master gardener around the spirit mark itself. And if I'm not to use that one, is it okay to use the Master Gardener Spirit logo? Or should I not be using one at all?
Are you using it for like your Zoom background or in the corner of your Zoom meetings?
No, I only use it like if my video's turned off, that is what pops up.
Yeah, I would just use the regular one or the newer one without the text around it.
Great. Okay.
It's appropriate for volunteers and program recognition. Master Gardeners does have like a few backgrounds that we created that have the logo and stuff on them, so you could use one of those. But yeah, definitely you could use 4-H Clover or something. It kind of
Great.
shows your affiliation, but it's not. It's crimson and gray at the minimum. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, looks like Jody has a question. So for our county extension websites, how do we combine WSU brand colors and 4-H brand color guidelines? Can the 4-H green be used as an accent color rather than the WSU accent green? Probably just on the WSU 4-H, just on the 4-H website. The web design system comes with the accent colors built in, and we recommend you don't change them. You can use the clover, some of those other elements, but we won't be changing the green to match 4-H just on those specific pages. Hopefully that answers your question, Jody. We have about 2 minutes. Does anybody else have any more questions? Well, just as a plug for, we offer open lab for the web team every Wednesday at 11 o'clock during this time. We do specialized trainings often and usually record them and post them to our YouTube channel. So I'm putting the link to our YouTube channel in the chat. We have a number of different trainings, all mostly specific to the web. So for anyone interested in that, you can subscribe to our channel and get notifications when we post new videos. We recently posted a video about preparation for migrating your site to the WSU web design system that some of you might find useful. And then we have trainings from WordPress basics all the way down to how to use the new editor and how to use the individual blocks, as well as Google Analytics and trainings on specific WordPress plugins. So we're also always interested in providing additional trainings at anyone's request. So it looks like we have a number of people who are interested in having additional MailChimp and HTML email newsletter training. So we will put that on the calendar and can send out an announcement. If you would like to be reminded for upcoming trainings from the web team, you can subscribe to announcements from our team as well. We send out an email every Tuesday with a link to any of our upcoming trainings, links to recent videos that we've uploaded, as well as links to recently launched websites that have been redesigned or migrated into the web design system. So let me just post that link in the chat really quick as well. Any other questions? Well, thanks for joining us, everyone. Again, this training was recorded and we will share it college-wide for anyone, if you want to share it with any of your colleagues that may have missed it that would be interested. And have a nice afternoon, everyone.